And it's just not right. This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia.
Are you telling me that these policies had no effect? Is that your testimony that these policies had no effect?
We are announcing our intention to prohibit the inclusion of Huawei and ZTE's.
I know we're late, but holy cow, I compiled some great stuff on the whole Georgia voter suppression law. Remember that a year ago, Jim Crow on steroids, as said Joe Biden? Also, Canada did something right. Josh Hawley torches the energy secretary, trans inmates, and a whole lot more coming up on this episode of Daily Caller Live. My name is Jobob. Daily Caller Live starts right now.
2, 1.
Here we go!
Might be the only brown guy on earth named Jobob.
That is actually her name, Jobob.
Live from the dingy bunker, completely cut off from the outside world, except for you fine folks. My name is Jobob. This is Daily Caller Live. Thanks so much for tuning in on today. It is May 20th, the year of our Lord 2022. Happy Friday. You're going into the weekend full of possibilities. Anything can happen this weekend, within reason, of course. But what can't happen is the level of hypocrisy coming from the Biden administration a year ago and how it's turned out today. Do you remember the voting laws in Georgia? You know what? We're just going to go right to that because, well, I'm excited about it. I'm a little bit hot to trot about this. Everyone, if you will, if you're watching this, I would please ask if you could put on your I told you so hat, because this segment is going to get a little wild in the I told you so department. Do you remember a year ago when Joe Biden and the rest of the liberal media and the Democrats and everybody around the country said the Georgia voting laws are racist and they're suppressionist and they're trying to stop people from voting, black people in particular? Well, guess what? Voter turnout ended up being higher in Georgia in this particular time as it relates to last midterm cycle. So from 2018 to now, the two most comparable midterms, not only are they higher, but Georgia voter turnout is at triple the rate that it was in 2018. But wait a minute, the suppression of the vote. They're suppressing votes. Black people can't vote in Georgia because they can't get an ID. I would like to play a montage here of a couple different people. Again, didn't have a ton of time to put a ton of these together, but maybe we will over the weekend. But remember this when they were talking about the Georgia voting law way back when? Watch this.
You have long been a major voting rights advocate, but we are seeing a lot of new laws restricting voting, not just in Georgia, but across the country.
My issue isn't who gets to vote. It's that everyone who is eligible is allowed to vote.
President Biden adding his voice to the calls to move the MLB legislation that restricts voting rights in Georgia.
I would strongly support them doing that. This is Jim Crow on steroids.
Feeling the pressure from black business leaders, activists, and boycott threats, Georgia businesses like Delta and Coca-Cola are now speaking out against the state's new voting law as well.
Let me be crystal clear and unequivocal. This legislation is unacceptable.
Do you see similarities between the voter suppression strategies happening right now in the South and throughout the country and the ones that we saw in the past?
Absolutely. I do see that. It seems to be Jim Crow on steroids.
And it's just not right. This is Jim Crow on steroids, what they're doing in Georgia and 40 other states. What it's all about. Imagine passing a law saying you cannot provide water or food for someone standing in a line to vote. You can't do that? Come on.
Oh, come on, man. This is from the Post-Millennial. Despite passing an election security law last year that critics claimed was voter suppression, and President Joe Biden comparing it to Jim Crow, which, holy cow, we'll touch on that again. We've talked about this. That's probably the worst thing I think a sitting president has ever said we'll talk about that in just a quick second. Georgia has seen record-breaking turnout for early voting. According to data compiled by Georgia Votes, 540,000 people, it's not exactly 540,000, but we're rounding, people have cast ballots in the state as of Tuesday, far outpacing the 180,000 votes by the same point during the 2018 midterm primary elections. The number has even outstripped those of the 2020 presidential elections by about 156%, despite election officials at the time encouraging elderly and mail-in voters to decrease crowd size during the coronavirus pandemic. So not only did voter suppression, not only did people stop voting, the numbers tripled. Remember when the whole idea was we're suppressing the vote by passing simple and standard and straightforward and common sense voter security bills? Now it's tripled. I don't know. How do you feel about this? Let me know in the comment section. Maybe you'll go read some comments. Sometimes I can read comments. Sometimes I can't read comments. Lots of Let's Go Brandons. Let's go Brandon again. Wow, the more untoward Let's Go Brandon. Yeah, this is clear and easy to see. Now, so just to get back to this whole idea of like the whole Jim Crow on steroids nonsense, remember, Joe Biden called the new voting law, which required an ID to vote and didn't have places closing at 2 in the morning because nobody needs to vote at 2 in the morning. It got rid of 24-hour voting centers, which weren't necessary to begin with. It basically reverted back to previous election rules before the coronavirus. Remember, there was a big pandemic and a lot of things changed in 2020. Probably not legally, but we won't get into that. But just reverting back to normal practices, Joe Biden called it not only Jim Crow on steroids, where in the Jim Crow era, remember, black people were beaten in the streets for the awful sin of voting, which is terrible. One of the worst things the American people have ever done. Jim Crow was terrible, absolutely awful. So not only was it Jim Crow, it was Jim Crow on steroids, a heightened version of one of the worst times in American history. That's what showing an ID was to Joe Biden. And also that idea of, well, you can't give water to people in line. No, you can't give anything to anybody in line. There are water stations, and if you would like to get water to drink in line, you're more than welcome to do that. But obviously, you can't give anything to anybody in a voting place because electioneering is illegal everywhere and always has been. If you don't know what electioneering is, I can't give people water in line because what happens if I show up in my AOC t-shirt and start handing out water? Well, then somebody in a MAGA t-shirt is going to show up and start handing out soda. Then another person in a Bernie t-shirt is going to hand out sandwiches. And then a person in, a Ron DeSantis t-shirt is going to show up and pizza. And it doesn't end. You can't do that. It's not a workable system. And it would severely handicap voting overall in the United States. So that whole thing in and of itself is dumb. So there is that. The bill implemented an ID requirement for absentee voter requests and mandated 3 weeks of early voting, including availability on weekends. Jim Crow on steroids. It's the worst thing since lynching black people for voting in the South. Yeah, Joe, real good analogy there. James Clyburn echoed that in that other previous clip. But oh my goodness, there's that. A lot of the comments, again, I would love to read more of these, but I can't because you guys use bad words. So, yeah. What else was today? Okay, so I also tweeted something today that I thought was, I don't know, kind of interesting. Georgia triple voter suppression. Oh yeah, where you at? MLB, Delta, Coca-Cola. We saw the CEO of Coca-Cola in that little compilation video saying this is completely unacceptable. I'm not sure where he is, and I probably did his accent terribly, and I apologize for that. But he's saying this is completely unacceptable. Delta says this is completely unacceptable. The MLB moved their All-Star game for laws that would inevitably triple the amount of voters in the state of Georgia. So get out of here with your whack nonsense. This is voter suppression garbage narrative, you Looney Tunes dum-dums. Robert says 4,000 mules. I haven't watched that, and I'm not going to, probably. I don't know. I can probably be convinced. The 2,000 Mules documentary, we haven't talked about it at all. And I have nothing against Dinesh. I have nothing against any of those people. I've said this a number of times privately. I don't need any more convincing that we need voter security. It's like you're telling me, hey, you're wearing a hilarious t-shirt. And I am wearing a hilarious t-shirt. And I say, yes, I agree with you. I'm wearing a hilarious t-shirt. And then you say, no, here's all the reasons why this t-shirt. No, I was already on your side. And so the 2,000 Mules thing, I'm sure, is a fascinating documentary. You didn't need to convince me anymore, so I probably won't see it. So I don't know why I felt the need to tell you all that. But let's see. Where do we want to go from here? Oh, my goodness. This is a clip. Senator Josh Hawley torched the administration's energy secretary on whether or not the Biden policies at all had any effect on gas prices, inflation as a whole, but gas prices specifically. Watch this from Senator Hawley. It's unbelievable. Check this out.
Is this acceptable to you?
No, it is not. And you can thank the activity of Vladimir Putin for invading Ukraine and pulling essentially those barrels.
With all due respect, Madam Secretary, that's utter nonsense. In January of 2021, the average gas price in my state was $2.07. 8 months later, long before Vladimir Putin invaded Ukraine, that price was up over 30%, and it has been going up consistently since. What are you doing to reverse this administration's policies that are drawing down our own supply of energy in this country, that are throttling oil and gas production in the United States of America? What are you doing about it?
With respect, sir, it is not administration policies that have affected supply and demand.
How can you say that when the price of gas was up over 30% from January to... you answer my questions, and it's my time, Madam Secretary, so why don't you answer my question? From January to August, the price of gasoline was up over 30%. In my state alone, it has been a continuous upward tick since then. And here's what your president did when he first came to office. He immediately re-entered the Paris Climate Accord. He canceled the Keystone Pipeline. He halted leasing programs in Anwar. He issued a 60-day halt on all new oil and gas leases and drilling permits on federal lands and waters. That's nationwide. That accounts, by the way, for 25% of U.S. oil production. He directed federal agencies to eliminate all supports for fossil fuels. He imposed new regulations on oil and gas and methane emissions. Those were all just in the first few days. Are you telling me that's had no effect on our energy supply?
94% of the oil and gas executives that were surveyed by the Dallas Fed said that administration policies had nothing to do with the increase in the price of oil.
I'm not interested in opinions of these people. I'm interested in the facts. Are you telling me that these policies had no effect? Is that your testimony that these policies had no effect? Are you telling me, Madam Secretary, are you telling me under oath that these policies had no effect?
I'm telling you that 94% of the oil and gas industry...
I'm not interested in their opinion. I'm interested in the facts.
So, no, they did not. Ask
That is
Vladimir
a remarkable statement.
Dang. So Josh Hawley listed off all of the things that Joe Biden did pretty immediately as he got into office, and then said, so you're telling me none of these things have anything to do with higher gas prices, cutting off land leases, restricting supply in the United States. None of that has anything to do with it. And she said, no. And the people that we paid to do surveys also agree that it is a no. So there's that. I don't know. There's some political angle that we could probably discuss a little bit more about that. But, you know, you can't believe anybody saying anything at this point, especially coming out of this administration. I'm getting a lot of comments about the 2,000 Mules thing. You have to watch 2,000 Mules, says Ellen. Let's see. Lynn says, watch 2,000 Mules. Kathy, watch I don't know. I'm still, again, you're not going to convince me any more than I'm already convinced. So in terms of needing voter integrity laws, voter security is the only thing that really matters here in the United States of America. If nobody believes the outcome of the election, we have effectively lost the country. So I am a huge advocate and proponent of stricter voting, as foolproof as elections can get. I'm a proponent of that. So when people are like, hey, here's another argument, I don't need another argument. You've already convinced me. So I don't know. Maybe I'll check it out. Let me see. Let's get to this before we get to Canada actually doing something right, because the Canada story is both massive and boring. So I don't want to bore you with that just yet. I want to go to this. This is a murder suspect in a New York prison is transitioning. Arrested as a male, Alex Ray Scott, who allegedly killed, this is from the Daily Caller, by the way, Christine Sellers reporting, Alex Ray Scott, who allegedly killed Kenneth Sylvinski in January 2020, appeared in a Manhattan Supreme Court on Wednesday with visibly longer hair that was pulled back. The New York Post reported. In addition, Scott has been listed as a female on prison records and is being housed at the Riker Island Rose M. Singer Center for. Do you want a prison named after you? I feel like they've got Riker Island's Rose M. Singer Center for female prisoners. I don't know if that's something that I would want. Scott was arrested as a male, the outlet noted. It looked like they were this antiques dealer Sylvinski had a relationship with Alex Ray Scott. Ended up killing him. Sylvinski had been strangled and his throat was slit, according to the outlet. Scott allegedly confessed to the crime after entering a Manhattan police precinct carrying Sylvinski's driver's license and credit card. Scott allegedly told detectives, "I think I may have killed someone tonight." That's not the story. That's the murder trial is a whole different thing in and of itself. But this person was arrested as a male and is now categorized in the prison system as a female, housed in the female prison system, and now has longer hair. Somebody's going to need to figure this out. I made the joke on the Candace Owens show, what was it, a month ago? I have a solution. I have a bipartisan solution to the problem that is men in female prisons because they're transitioning or deciding that they're women. There was that story a couple weeks ago. I think it was a New Jersey prisoner inmate who transitioned to being a female, and lo and behold, got 2 women in the female prison pregnant. So there's that. I think I made the joke of, I have a bipartisan solution. I have a solution to this. Taxpayer, stay with me, by the way. You're not going to like this from the onset, but trust me, it works out. Taxpayer-funded transition surgery for transgender inmates. Lefties would love that sort of thing. They love giving money and services and tax dollars to quote-unquote marginalized communities. They love that sort of stuff. Now, on the other side, that's where it gets interesting, because the next time a man goes to a guard and says, "Hey, guard, I think I'm a woman now," the guard gets to say, "All right, chop chop, let's schedule your surgery. Let's meet Roberta, Robert." You know, I think the problem solves itself pretty dang easily. So there is that. I don't know. What are you going to do about this? I feel like that's the best solution. Does anybody have any better solutions in terms of making everybody happy? So, yeah. Get to this. To wrap up the week, Canada did something right. I don't know. They've been pretty off on most things. But now, lo and behold, Canada has done something right. This is boring, but very, very, very important. I'll let this guy, Canadian guy, explain it to you. Watch this clip and we'll talk about it on the other side.
Today, ladies and gentlemen, we are announcing our intention to prohibit the inclusion of Huawei and ZTE's products and services in Canada's telecommunications systems. This follows a full review by our security agencies and in consultation with our closest allies. Let me be very clear. We will always protect the safety and security of Canadians and will take any actions necessary to safeguard our telecommunication infrastructure. Telecommunication companies in Canada will not be permitted to include in their networks products or services that put our national security at risk.
All right, I'm going to cut it off there. He goes on a little bit longer. But basically, Canada is outlawing Huawei and ZTE products and services from Canada's telecommunication system. The move comes amid increased concerns regarding national and cybersecurity. If you do business in China with China, you're doing business with the Chinese Communist Party, the CCP, and they have all of the information. Remember a year, 2 years ago almost now, that Boris Johnson in the UK was almost there signing a deal with Huawei, which would have opened up all of Britain and probably a bunch of the European countries over there up to Chinese being able to tap their phones and listen to anything they wanted at all times. The 5G system being set up by private companies in the United States should probably continue to be set up by private companies in the United States as opposed to Chinese-owned, CCP-controlled companies. This article says the relationship between, I think this is the post-millennial too, the relationship between Canada and Chinese tech giants has been tumultuous at best. At one point, Huawei executives was detained in Canada on charges of fraud and only released in return for the two Michaels. Not sure what that is. But there's that. And again, I said that this is going to be boring, and it is. It's a massive development. It's huge. Good job, Canada. But at the same time, it is, in fact, quite boring. I want to go back to this really quick because I'm reading some of the comments in here, and you guys are freaking brutal. When it comes to the comments on the transgender stuff, I gave you my little analogy about not analogy, but my solution, my bipartisan solution. And dang it, I wish I could bring some of these up, but it's basically my solution. If you're just now tuning in, if you're listening to the podcast, sorry that I'm repeating myself here, but the solution that people are talking about is, or that I'm providing is, well, hey, yeah, just taxpayer-funded transition surgery for inmates, because I guarantee you men are not going to want to transition if they got to go under the knife to do so. JC, maybe? I'm not sure. So they're already doing that here in California. Yes, okay, make it mandatory. How about that? I think we can all probably come to an agreement here, and I think that would stop the problem. Riyadh, I think, sorry I'm not pronouncing that right, says it's the best solution. I agree. A lot more that I can't read on the air, but again, I'll just say this. You guys are brutal when it comes to that sort of thing. So there's that. Really quick, just to touch on the baby formula shortage. I tweeted this out or posted it on my Instagram page, and I wanted to get to it. So you've seen these headlines probably everywhere. Actually, I'm not sure. I don't know if you guys watch non-friendly news outlets. I take in quite a bit of news. I read the New York Times. I read the Washington Post. I watch MSNBC and CNN sometimes. Just to get a bigger perspective of where things are going. Gavin Newsom, Governor Gavin Newsom of California, posted this yesterday. And this is the headline that's making the news all around your lefty media. 192 Republicans voted against funding for the baby formula shortage. They're hitting a bunch of Republicans saying that, well, they voted against funding for baby formula. Let me read this H.R. 7790. The emergency funding from the bill would have been used, this is a summary, to increase the number of FDA inspection staff, more government money going to people and not actually doing things, provide resources, more government money for personnel working on formula issues, help the agency stop fraudulent baby formula from entering the U.S. marketplace, and improve data collection on the U.S. formula market. So none of that is going to actual production to stop the baby formula shortage. Just so you're clear, when you see that headline, 192 Republicans voted against baby formula, that's not what's happening. We talked about this last week. I posted a reel about it over the weekend saying that this happens all the time. They put this floofy title on bills like this baby formula bill, and then people vote against it because it's not actually what the bill is. It's more funding for, it's basically expanding more government. It's just more government. It's more people doing less things because that's what the government does. So when you see these headlines that say 192 Republicans voted against the $28 million emergency funding to address the baby formula shortage, it wouldn't have addressed it at all. I don't have a chyron for this, but when you see stuff like this, that's exactly what's happening. I, again, posted a thing about it yesterday. You can't be cynical enough about politicians, about the codification of Roe versus Wade bill that was never intended to pass. They strictly wanted to get Republicans on the record voting against it. So yes, 192 Republicans voted against a bill that would have expanded the government and done nothing to actually address the baby formula shortage. So there's that. If you're seeing that headline, or if you're seeing those arguments being made, I don't know, wherever it is that you are. That's going to do it for us over the weekend. Oops. What's happening here? What is going on? There we go. No. This one. That's going to do it for us today. Appreciate you tuning in, sticking around. If you haven't already, give me a follow on any of your social media platforms. Let me pull those up really quick. Yeah, type in Jobob to pretty much anywhere. You'll be able to find me. Instagram, Twitter, Facebook, YouTube. I've gotten way more Twitter followers in the last couple days. So I've been tweeting more now. Maybe that's the reason why. So maybe you can give me a follow on Twitter. We can converse on there about things that are going on in your neck of the woods. We can talk about the ridiculousness of this nonsensical argument that voter suppression is happening, because it's not, clearly not. It's triple that. But yeah, I don't know. Give me a follow on any social media platforms. We will see you next week, Monday. What's that? The 23rd? If anything happens over the weekend, we'll bring it to you then. Thanks so much for tuning in. Appreciate you each and every day watching Daily Caller Live. We'll see you then. God bless America.